Hi, Capricorn. The energy around this love reading feels pretty intense right now. Like someone is finally starting to realize they can't keep staying silent anymore. It feels like this person has spent a long time living inside old fears, old wounds, and that habit of pulling away whenever emotions start feeling too real. But lately, something has been shifting. They can feel your energy changing. Capricorn feels colder now, quieter, harder to reach. And somehow, that's exactly what's making them stop and wonder. Why did it take the thought of losing you for them to understand how much you truly meant to them? Because now, they're no longer looking at you like just another connection. There's something about Capricorn's energy that makes this person feel like they can't keep seeing things the old way anymore. And strangely, the more distance they try to create, the more aware they become of your presence. It feels like sitting alone in the car after a long day, the radio playing softly in the background, the city still moving outside the windows, but inside their mind, one question keeps repeating itself over and over again. What happens if I really lose this person? I think for a long time, they tried convincing themselves this was just a passing connection, just temporary feelings, just a moment of emotional intensity that would eventually fade away. But Capricorn, some people enter our lives very quietly and somehow end up changing our entire inner world before we even realize it's happening. And honestly, I feel like that's who you became for them. The energy of the Judgment card here feels like an emotional awakening that's been buried for a very long time. Not in a dramatic way. More like a realization that happens in silence. Because lately, they've started noticing something different about you. You're trying less, waiting less, opening your heart less. Capricorn still seems calm on the outside. But that calmness is exactly what's making them nervous. Because for the first time, they feel like you could actually be pulling away emotionally. And something about that has started shifting everything inside of them. I think this person has lived with the same emotional patterns for a very long time. Pulling away when things become too deep. Staying silent when honesty is needed most. Pretending they're okay while everything inside feels completely chaotic. But this connection won't really let them keep doing that anymore. The energy of the Six of Cups feels like a bond that's difficult to explain. It's not just missing a person. It's missing the feeling of being with them. That feeling of being understood without needing to explain every part of yourself. Being seen at your weakest without feeling judged for it. And honestly, that may also be what scares them. Because the closer they get to Capricorn, the harder it becomes to keep wearing the mask they've used to protect themselves for years. You see through it too easily. There are moments when they try acting distant, but then an old song comes on, and somehow they're thinking about you again. Moments when they tell themselves they should move on. But the more they try filling the empty space with other things, the more disconnected everything else starts to feel. And I think this is where they're beginning to realize the issue was never about needing just anyone. It's that nobody makes them feel the way Capricorn does. The Death card here doesn't feel frightening. It feels more like an inner transformation, like slowly shedding an older version of themselves, the version that kept running from real emotions, the version that believed distance was safer than loving someone too deeply. Maybe this person still doesn't fully know what to do with all of these feelings, but I think they're beginning to understand. This connection has already changed the way they see love, and sometimes the scariest thing isn't loving someone deeply. It's realizing how important they truly are right at the moment you feel them drifting away from you. That may also explain why their energy has felt heavier lately. More thoughts, more memories, more emotions left unsaid. Like some part of them is trying to walk through a door they spent a very long time avoiding. But this time, something about it feels different. Because instead of continuing to run from their feelings, this person is finally starting to sit with them. And honestly, I think that's what's changing them the most. Capricorn has this very quiet way about them. You don't force people to grow. You don't walk around trying to prove your worth to anyone. You just live as yourself. Quietly, honestly, steadily. But somehow, that sense of stability makes the people who enter your life start looking at themselves differently. I feel like this person was used to more surface-level connections before this. Conversations that never had to go too deep. Relationships that existed mostly to fill empty space. But around Capricorn, everything started feeling much more real. And I think that scared them sometimes. Because they didn't really know how to handle something that felt this genuine. The energy of the King of Pentacles here feels very mature. Not loud. Not performative. It feels more like someone whose calm presence makes other people feel safe without even trying. And I think that's exactly what this person feels with you. Not just temporary excitement, but the feeling that maybe, for the first time, they could actually picture a stable future with someone. even if they never said it out loud. And honestly, I think there were a lot of small moments that made them realize how important you had become. Conversations that seemed ordinary on the surface. The quiet moments when Capricorn simply sat beside them. The moments when you noticed they weren't okay. Even while they were pretending everything was fine. And maybe what confuses them the most is that you always seem to see the real version of them, not the image they show the outside world, not the strong or distant exterior they've used to protect themselves for years, but the tired part of them, the vulnerable part, the part that's always afraid that if someone truly sees who they are, they'll eventually leave. But Capricorn didn't do that. The energy of the Queen of Cups feels like someone gentle enough to hear the things that were never spoken out loud. And honestly, I think that's part of why this person sometimes avoids you. Because when someone truly understands you, all the emotional walls start feeling pointless. It feels like they've spent a very long time trying to keep everything under control. Their emotions, their relationships, their old wounds. But this connection no longer lets them live in that space that feels safe but empty. You've started making them think about things they used to avoid completely. What a real home might actually feel like. What a true partner might feel like. And whether love could feel peaceful, instead of constantly anxious and guarded. I think that's why their energy has slowed down lately. Less impulsive, less interested in distractions. Almost like they're beginning to understand, some connections don't enter our lives to create more chaos. Some connections quietly push us to become a better version of ourselves. And the energy of the lovers here feels bigger than romance alone. It feels like an emotional choice. A moment where someone starts asking themselves whether they're finally brave enough to stop running from what their heart truly wants. And honestly, I think this person is getting very close to that moment, even if they still don't fully know how to express everything they feel. Even if they're still trying to understand all the emotions moving inside them. Something in them has started softening, especially after all the patience Capricorn has given them. Because sometimes, the thing that changes a person the most isn't grand words or dramatic promises. It's meeting someone who makes them want to build something lasting for the first time, instead of running from it. And I think that's also the moment when their deepest fears finally begin to rise to the surface. And the more important this connection starts to feel, the more afraid this person becomes that they may not be enough to keep it. Because some people, when they fall in love, move closer. But others, every time their heart starts feeling something too real, they instinctively pull away. Not because they feel nothing. Sometimes it's because they feel too much. I think this person carries a kind of loneliness that's difficult to explain. The kind that comes from handling everything alone for too long, getting used to hiding emotions, getting used to pretending they're okay, getting used to staying silent, even when everything inside feels messy. And Capricorn, maybe the thing that scares them most is that you're beginning to see all of it. The energy of the Five of Pentacles feels like someone who's always afraid they're not enough. Not successful enough, not stable enough, not perfect enough to be loved the way they secretly want to be loved. So instead of expressing what they feel, they withdraw. There are moments when they disappear from this connection, not because the feelings are gone, but because they don't know how to face the possibility of disappointing you. I think there were times when they looked at Capricorn and quietly wondered, could I really become the person they need? And the more they overthink it, the more distance they create. Maybe at times this person felt confusing to you. Close one moment, distant the next, opening their heart, then suddenly going quiet again. But honestly, I think most of that comes from fear inside them more than anything having to do with you. The energy of the Moon card feels heavy with hidden emotions. Like sitting alone in a dark room for too long with your own thoughts. Everything may appear normal on the outside, but internally, there are so many unanswered questions. This person feels like someone who's experienced a lot of disappointment before, either in love or in the way they see themselves. So whenever someone truly gets close to their heart, their first instinct isn't trust, it's fear. Fear of losing control. Fear of being fully seen before they've healed the parts of themselves they still struggle with. And maybe, fear that Capricorn could one day leave too, just like others did before. So sometimes they push things away before those feelings become too important. And I know that sounds contradictory, but some people end up hurting the connections they treasure most simply because they never learned how to hold on to them properly. And honestly, I think this person is starting to realize that now, especially during the moments when they no longer feel your energy as close as it used to be. The energy of the Nine of Swords feels like sleepless nights, because when everything becomes quiet, suppressed emotions start getting louder. And I don't think this is the kind of connection they can simply forget by keeping themselves busy. Because Capricorn didn't just touch their emotions. You touched the way they see their own worth. And sometimes that feels even more frightening than love itself. I think this person is in a space right now where they're beginning to understand. If they keep running from their emotions, they could lose something that genuinely matters to them. But at the same time, they're still learning how to face all the insecurities they've hidden for so long. So lately, their energy may feel more unstable than usual. More thoughts, more emotions, more inner conflict. Almost like they're standing between two different versions of themselves. One that still wants to hide inside old comfort zones. And another that's slowly beginning to want a more honest kind of love. And honestly, I think that's why this connection still lingers in their mind, even after periods where both of you tried creating distance between each other. Because there are some people we can stop talking to, stop seeing, stop hearing from for a while, and somehow they still never fully leave our emotions. Capricorn, this feels like the kind of connection that becomes even clearer the harder they try to forget it. Maybe they once believed that if they stayed busy enough, everything would eventually fade. If they focused on work, daily life, responsibilities, then these feelings would slowly disappear too. But then, there are these unexpected moments that bring you back into their mind again. An old song playing while they're driving, a familiar scent passing by, or just a quiet night when there's finally nothing left to distract them from themselves. And in those moments, they think about Capricorn again. The energy of the Two of Cups feels deeply emotional here, not just attraction, not just chemistry, but the feeling of being connected to someone in a way that's difficult to explain out loud. Like even in silence, something is still being felt between the two of you, and honestly, I think that confused them for a very long time. Because this connection never felt like anything they had experienced before. It wasn't loud, it didn't need dramatic promises, but somehow, it quietly changed them from the inside out. Capricorn started making them notice things they never paid attention to before. The way someone can simply be present when you're exhausted. The way a single look can make you feel understood. The way peace can sometimes feel more powerful than intensity. And maybe the strangest part is, the more distance they try to create, the deeper this connection starts to feel. The energy of the Star card feels very healing. Not healing through perfect words, more like the feeling of meeting someone who quietly makes you want to believe in yourself again. And honestly, I think Capricorn gave them that feeling without even trying to, not by rescuing them, but simply by being yourself, calm, genuine, steady. You may not even realize it. But sometimes your presence alone made the world feel a little less cold to them. And I think that's part of what's changing them internally now. Less interested in shallow connections. Less interested in empty conversations. Almost like after meeting Capricorn, they can't fully return to the version of themselves they used to be. The energy of the High Priestess feels very quiet, but very deep. Like there are things between the two of you that were never fully spoken aloud, and yet both of you could still feel them. There may have been moments when logic told them to move on, to let go, to treat all of this like just another emotional phase. But something deeper inside them kept saying otherwise. And I think the more they tried ignoring that feeling, the more meaningful this connection started becoming, not in some overly mystical or unrealistic way. More like the feeling of someone entering your life right when you were beginning to lose connection with yourself. And somehow, that person quietly makes you want to open your heart again. That may also be why this person has started seeing your connection differently now. Not as something temporary anymore, but as something that genuinely left a mark on their life and emotions. And when a connection reaches that kind of depth, it often makes people want to become more honest with their own heart. Even if that also means they'll have to face the very things they've spent a long time trying to avoid. And honestly, I think this is where the energy of this connection really starts to shift. It's no longer just silent longing anymore. No longer emotions hidden quietly behind emotional walls. It feels more like this person is slowly preparing themselves for a real conversation. The kind of conversation they may not have been brave enough to face before. Capricorn, I don't think this is someone who opens up easily. This feels like the kind of person who keeps everything inside for a very long time. Even when they miss you. Even when they regret things. Even when you've crossed their mind hundreds of times in a single day, they still tend to stay silent until the emotions become too heavy to keep hiding. And honestly, I think lately they've been getting very close to that point. The energy of the Strength card here doesn't feel loud or dramatic. It feels more like someone trying to learn how to be honest about their feelings without running away from them anymore. And sometimes, The hardest thing for a person isn't saying, I love you or you matter to me. It's admitting how afraid they've been for a very long time, afraid of opening up, afraid of rejection, afraid that if they truly take this connection seriously, there may be no way back afterward. I think this person has a lot they want to say to Capricorn. Maybe apologies for the times they disappeared without explanation, for the moments they left you confused or feeling emotionally unchosen. And deep down, I think they know you deserve more clarity than that. Something about their energy now feels very different from before. Slower, more grounded, less impulsive. Almost like, for the first time, they're not only thinking about emotions, but also about how to keep this connection in their real life. The energy of the Ace of Pentacles feels like a new door opening very slowly. Not overly dramatic, not rushed. More like someone starting to want something real, a more serious meeting, a more honest conversation, a clearer vision for the future. And honestly, I think this person has spent a long time trying to figure out what they truly want. And what surprises them now is, after all the distance they tried creating, their heart still keeps returning to the same place, the same person. Maybe they still don't know how to say everything perfectly. But I think they're beginning to realize, if they stay silent forever, they could lose the chance to keep this connection in their life. The energy of the Knight of Pentacles feels very Capricorn-like here. Not someone making huge promises only to disappear afterward, but someone slowly learning how to express feelings through real actions. Very slow sometimes, very careful, but sincere. And honestly, I think this may be the first time this person truly wants to step outside their emotional comfort zone in a more mature way. Not just returning when they miss you. Not just keeping this connection alive through half-finished emotions, but genuinely thinking about how to build something more stable between the two of you. And Capricorn, sometimes the thing that changes a person isn't pressure. It's meeting someone who makes them no longer want to stay the old version of themselves. And honestly, I think that's why lately they've started looking at the future differently. Less avoidance, less fear, less emotional running. And maybe, for the first time in a long while, they've started thinking more about staying instead of leaving. But before they can fully move towards something clearer, I think there's still one final thing this person has to face within themselves first. It's the realization that they no longer want to live inside half-hearted connections anymore. Capricorn, I honestly feel like this person is going through a major internal shift right now. Not only in love, but in the way they see life, the future, and the kind of person they truly want to become. Maybe in the past, they poured too much energy into things that never genuinely fulfilled them. Environments that drained them. Relationships built out of habit. Older versions of themselves they kept holding on to simply because they felt familiar. But after this connection, it feels like they can't fully return to who they used to be anymore. The energy of the Chariot card feels very powerful here. Like someone finally realizing, if they keep standing still between fear and their real emotions, they'll continue feeling empty inside. And honestly, I think this is where they begin moving toward what truly matters to them. Even if that means walking away from things that once felt comfortable. It feels like this person is slowly separating themselves from an old environment, an old circle, or maybe even an older version of themselves. Not because everything in the past was completely wrong, but because they're beginning to realize they want more than that now. A connection with depth, a kind of peace that lasts longer than temporary emotional highs. A person they can actually picture inside their future. And honestly, I think that picture is becoming clearer and clearer when they think about Capricorn. The energy of the Ten of Pentacles feels like a future being built slowly, but solidly. Not the kind of love that only looks beautiful in fleeting moments. More like two people starting to imagine sharing everyday life together. Quiet mornings, a kitchen light still glowing late at night, small conversations after a long day. And I think what this person is craving now is no longer just excitement. It's the feeling of truly belonging somewhere, beside someone. And maybe for the first time in a very long while, they're starting to see Capricorn as someone they genuinely want in their future. Not only in fantasy, but in real life. The energy of the Four of Wands feels very emotionally grounding. Like after wandering around internally with too much chaos for too long, someone finally starts wanting to come home. And sometimes, home isn't really a place. Sometimes it's the feeling of peace you experience beside someone who makes you feel like you don't have to become anyone else to be loved. And honestly, I think that's what this connection has slowly been giving them. Not perfection, not a love story without difficulties, just something real. And maybe that's exactly why it took them so long to fully understand it. Because for the first time, these feelings became too real to ignore. Capricorn, I don't think this person wants to stay only in emotions anymore. It feels like they're beginning to want something more tangible now, more honest, more intentional, more grounded in reality. Maybe it's a meeting, a conversation that goes deeper than ever before, or maybe it's simply the way they've started showing up more consistently inside this connection. Small changes, but enough to feel that the energy between you two is no longer standing still. And honestly, what I love most about this energy is that it doesn't feel rushed. It feels like two people who've gone through enough silence, enough misunderstandings, enough emotional distance to finally realize that what they truly need isn't just intense feelings. It's someone willing to stay. And honestly, I think that's where this connection is slowly heading now. Something slower, deeper, more mature. And maybe this is only the beginning of that change. Because sometimes the thing that changes us the most isn't some grand promise. It's meeting someone who slowly makes our heart stop wanting to run away. And honestly, I think this connection feels that way too. It's not perfect. It hasn't been easy. But it's deep enough to make both people start seeing love in a more mature way than before. And maybe the most beautiful part of all this is that after all the silence, all the distance, all the unspoken emotions, there's still someone quietly learning how to stay. And honestly, I'm a little curious. Have you ever experienced a connection that changed the way you look at love too? And if stories like this resonate with you, maybe stay here with me a little longer. But for now, just let all these emotions settle slowly, Capricorn.